When we get into the second half, all our people who go onto the pitch need to be clear what they're going onto the pitch to do.
I am in politics to work to avoid human misery.
You can't move your mansion. That's why we want a mansion tax.
I really do need to get on with my tour if you don't mind.
Can we not be in your tour?
This story snowballs into something much bigger and
Literally, we were metaphorically standing on the edge of a...
All conferences feel cut off from reality, but this one really does. On the face of it, there's no sense of a party who've just come behind UKIP in some opinion polls. A lot of Tories are seriously thinking about who they are and what they can say in 2015 when they've finally shaken off this pesky lot. But walking around here, it's quite striking that Lib Dems either can't or won't do anything similar. 2015, what do you want your pitch to the country to be?
Exactly the same as it's always been. We believe in the liberty of the individual.
Why do you think we're going to be separating from the Tories when we've always been separated from the Tories?
Britain has a Liberal youth, we'll make it Liberal Democrat. How is that going?
Well, actually, it's all about Liberal youth having a voice within the Liberal Democrats, and actually, we're bringing forward policy motions.
People join parties when they're doing well, and in a sense, true believers join them when they're doing badly.
Well, so you've got evidence that people are actually joining the Liberal Democrats at the minute?
Oh, yeah. Yes, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
So you're all right on the whole?
I am.
You're keeping your morale together.
It's never been better. Sorry if that doesn't agree with what you were hoping for.
No, but you wouldn't come if you were miserable, would you?
No, you certainly wouldn't. When, like me, you get into your mid-60s, 5 days of this is actually quite hard work.
It's like that in your mid-40s.
It's about giving the citizen more power. It's about making sure that in our society, in our government, in our markets, it is the choice of the citizen that matters. Liberalism is about the freedom and choice of the individual citizen. It's also about internationalism in an internationalist world. It's exactly the same arguments we've always made. So if the Guardian's still confused about that, I'm confused, since it was called the Manchester Guardian and used to understand what liberalism was rather well.
Before my time. Yes, Captain Ashdown, I am confused, but maybe I'll get a bit of clarity at a fringe meeting organised for two views of the party's future to thrash it out.
Investing in serious legacy projects. I'm talking about barrages. Huge projects.
Supposedly on the left, you've got Tim Farron, the party president, and someone tipped to be the next leader.
250,000 houses we could build.
The state should never account for more than 40% of public spending.
And on the right, there's Mark Littlewood, a former Liberal Democrat head of media, and now the Director General of the Institute of Economic Affairs, the favourite think tank of Margaret Thatcher.
The scale of the reduction in public spending would be far beyond what George Osborne is actually contemplating. That doesn't need to be done overnight, but I think it needs to be a medium-term strategy.
We're now going to move on to questions.
From Morrison's, urging me to vote against the chicken tax, which apparently is coming in on the 1st of October, that will make rotisserie chickens in Morrison's ATP more expensive than they are.
I'm not hugely optimistic, actually. I mean, I sometimes think, actually, that the Liberal Democrat policy-making process is so complex, so obscure, that it always ends up with something of a fudged compromise. To some degree, the Liberal Democrats have been a sort of party of the middle, splitting the difference between Labour and Conservative, nice and cuddly, wouldn't say boo to a goose. But I think the penny might be beginning to drop, that a kind of more consistent narrative is now necessary.
Social liberals, economic liberals, pretty much the same thing. You know, you believe that the free market is a good thing, but it needs to be free. Redistributing power in society to make sure the rich ensure that they fund public services properly and the least well-off are able to keep more of their money. That is social and economic liberalism.
And general principles that you say to the country in 2015, this is the kind of people we are?
I'm not going to talk about social and economic liberalism because that's sort of boring
Give
stuff
me
that
some
you and
other
me
words.
talk about.
Give me some other words.
Fairness.
Your argument really is, forget those Labour voters who, probably tactically voted for the Lib Dems thinking they were a party of the centre-left, and really go for an entirely new sort of fresh stance as a libertarian party of the centre-right. That's essentially your argument.
That is essentially my argument. I mean, any political party that's aspiring to be remotely mainstream shouldn't sort of pick out whole swathes of voters and say, we don't want your vote. But it does seem to me rather difficult to imagine how, if you like, very left-leaning voters who might have moved to the Lib Dems over the issue of the Iraq War are suddenly going to be persuaded to vote Liberal Democrat in the 2015 general election.
Do you worry you're going to get thumped in 2015? Decimated.
In every single election that Liberal Democrats face, we are unprotected by the electoral system, we are unprotected by vast amounts of money, and so of course we run the risk of being wiped out every single election we stand.
And I think an economically liberal agenda combined with a opposition to the nanny state and strong support for civil liberties, would be that compelling agenda. It's at least worth, I think, the Liberal Democrats taking that risk. Now is the time to gamble, not to actually stand pat.
They'd be the party that deregulated your business and let you smoke a joint.
I think that's exactly what the Liberal Democrats should be. They should deregulate business and let you smoke a joint.
This party's got real problems, isn't it, in terms of its identity and what it presents to the public.
It does know what it is, and it doesn't seem to know what it wants to do. There was a hands up the other night where somebody asked, who do you lean more toward, the Tories or Labour? And 60% went one way and 40% the other. That's a party that is a bit schizophrenic.
There is something of a debate on between two sorts of Liberal Democrat, right? A sort of...
Where did you got that from?
Really? You don't buy that? Economically liberal people who are perhaps keen on the idea of a smaller state, deregulation and so on. And then sort of social liberals and social democrats who talk a bit more about things like equality and housing, for example, and are a bit more keen on an active role.
It's not that simple. It's not that there are two views.
No.
How many views are there?
Or if you've got 5 Liberal Democrats, you'll have 6 views. I mean, you know, it's like that though. Yes, you've got the ones who want to go slightly this way on economic issues or slightly that way on economic issues, but it's not like that. It's like that.
Okay. Brilliant. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.